Hi everyone, I'm Berlin Diaz. Right now, I'll be discussing the pedagogical principles in the teaching learning process for toddlers. So, the learning centered principles has 14 principles that are divided into four categories. The first one is the cognitive and metacognitive factors with six principles. The second one is the motivational and affective factors with three principles. The third one is the development and social factors with two principles. And the last one is the individual differences factors with three principles. So toddlers are just 1 to 4 years old. So as a future parents or future teacher or a current parent or current teacher can should help the toddlers develop their skills or their behavior that will better equip them for their professional career in the future. So the teachers, those parents or future teachers or parents can be trained in these factors so they can apply these principles and provide their student or future student or their kids with a better learning experience. And these principles will improve teaching learning in the education system. So let's talk about first the cognitive and metacognitive factors. So this factor has six principles. Before I'll discuss the principles, let's just talk about what is cognitive and metacognitive factors. The cognitive is how the toddlers learn, how they perceive, how they remember, how they think. So toddlers perceive like various shapes, colors, symbols, sizes, can do nursery rhymes, can sing along. So that is the cognitive. While the metacognitive, the word meta means beyond. So you are applying, you need to apply cognitive first before metacognitive. You are applying cognitive but manipulated by the metacognitive. So metacognitive is thinking about thinking, learning about learning, knowing about knowing, or in other words, toddlers learn better when they think beyond thinking. So now let's talk the first principle one, which is the nature of the learning process. So the learning of complex subject matter is most effective when it is an intentional process of construction, meaning from information and experience. So from the word intentional, meaning it is most effective if it's intentional. The toddler can learn more effectively if there's an intentional process from the teachers and parents. And of course, as a student, we should have an intentional to learn. But since this is about the toddlers, so we should focus on how we should apply this principle to the toddlers in teaching. So, as a future teacher or future parents or a current teacher's future teachers or parents, we have to develop their skills, their behavior towards learning to become most effective, like at home, putting a poster at home, educational poster, or in classroom, giving them learning toys that is appropriate to their development stage. So toddlers also learn by observing, listening, exploring, experimenting, playing, and often ask questions. Let them do that, it will help their learning most effective. Toddlers really need guidance and support from teacher and parents because toddlers age, their stage are not be are I mean nagastay pa sila sa school. Nagastay sila sa balay. They started going to school around 3 years old or 4 years old maybe. So um if we do these practices I mentioned to our kids, to our students, meaning we have an intention to help them learn. So at that time that pwede na sila may eskwela, we should enroll them to a preschool or to a nursery like that. So meaning if we do that as well, if we enroll them, meaning we have an intention to help them learn. So now let's move forward to principle 2, goals of the learning process. The successful learner over time and with support and instructional guidance can create meaningful, coherent, and representations of knowledge. Overtime means the success learner cannot be done in a short period of time. So it's a lifelong learning. Dili lang kay pang 4 years, dili lang kay pang 5 months. But learning will not stop. It is across the lifespan from being an infant until an old age. So even if you're done studying, even if you already graduated, even if you did not study, even if wala man lang kaka-eskwela, wa kakahuman, even outside the classroom, you can still learn everywhere. So you can still learn in your own. So a lot of kids don't have any opportunities to go to school. Like for example, a farmer. So a farmer, wala siya nakaskwela. Wala teacher na guide niya. Or no one guide him on how to do farm. On so how did they know to how unsa nila pagkabalo ang pag-farm? Simply because they learn on their own. So you can still learn on your own and can create a meaningful coherent representation of knowledge. It was also emphasized here that if there's a support and constructional guidance, you are still a successful learner. So, like us, we studied a particular course before and we earn an education right now. So, we are studying with a support from with a support and instruction and with guidance. So, who are this person who guide and support us? So, these are the teachers and parents. So, because of their guidance and support, it can create a meaningful coherent representation knowledge for a student like us. And so that's it. So anyway, how to rate to apply this for a toddlers. So it is still the same to toddlers. A toddlers can learn or can be a successful learner if there's a support and instructional guidance from the parents and the teacher. Since toddlers still need guidance, so while they are still kids, bata pa sila, we need to guide and support our kids because this is for your own goods as a parents, as well for their own goods. Aron di sila mag-suffer habang gadako. Hanggang silang learning nakuha while bata pa. So, since a toddler, wala pa nag-school, so at the age of 1 to 3, I think, or 1 to 2 years old, we can still teach them at home. So that is the principle 2. Let's move forward. The principle 3, construction of knowledge. The successful learner can link new information with existing knowledge in meaningful ways. So in other words, you should connect the new knowledge to what existing. For example, you, a parent or a teacher, you are teaching a kid. You teach a kid you are asking a kid what is 5 plus 5. Then why did you ask 5 plus 5? Wala pa siya kabalo, wala pa siya ka-memorize good sa numbers. At least 1 to 10 numbers, dili niya, wala kay siya na swito. Only 1 to 5 numbers lang iyang na-memorize. Then di mo siya gipa 5 plus 5. So this is the reason why why it is important to discuss first the old information before starting a new topic. So in order a student learn new things, they have to connect existing knowledge. And who are the teachers? Who are the person that needs to teach a toddlers? Of course, it is just a toddlers. So as a parents or teacher, we should teach them first we should teach them on the old knowledge before jumping into a new information. So if this happen, if you are doing these practices, then she or he will be a successful learner. So now let's move forward to principle 4, strategic thinking. So the successful learner can create and use repertoire of thinking, reasoning strategies to achieve complex learning goals. So we have to do strategies in order in order to the student like us be successful in studies. So why we pass the exam, why we pass assignments, the quiz, because we have a strategic thinking on how did we do that. So as well, the teacher, you should also do strategic thinking. So whenever you encounter a certain activity, like a certain activity, you have an upcoming activity. Wala pa lang naabot ang activity. Nag-think na ka kung unsa imong dapat buhaton, unsa kaya imong ma-learn ana nga topic. Like a teacher give you a book for you to read, wala pa lang ka nagbasa, pero in your mind, you're thinking on how to learn that topic in the book. So at that time, you are using a strategic thinking. So only successful learner can do that. So how this principle apply for toddlers? As a teacher and parents, you should do strategies para beyond ang learning sa toddlers. Toddlers will become successful learner if they have strategic thinking. So we teachers should do challenging activities to make the student create a strategic thinking. And if the kids can do that, then they can be a successful learner. You can do problem solving activity, asking question, situational question, so that they will apply a strategic on how they will answer the question. So do activity to enhance their strategies. Like for example, a child is using a strategic thinking when they play a puzzle. So it was very difficult to arrange that puzzle for a toddler. So at that time, they will use strategic thinking. So if this thing happened, they are a successful learner. So now let's move forward to the principle 5, thinking about thinking. So higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations facilitate creative and critical thinking. So thinking about thinking, you have to be creative and have a critical thinking. So we as a student like us should not expect everything will be provided by the teacher. You should not expect that every information should be discussed by the teacher. We should also maghimo po ta, mag-learn po ta dili kay salik sa teachers. Like a teachers provided a book for us to read. We should not just read the book, we should also understand the book inside. What are the learning inside the book? Like as our teacher right now, like as Miss Kagimbal is, I mean Ma'am Kagimbal is require us to report. So not all information, meaning she provided a report. She is asking for us to report. So meaning not all information she will discuss it in front. We should also think, how do I explain this in front to everyone? What are my understanding from this topic? So for toddlers naman, so toddlers acquire knowledge by playing, they investigate, they create meaning for their experiences and interaction. They are raising a question. So while the children is playing, children started to recognize and solve problem by exploring different situation. Toddlers also sometimes asking question, even though the question is very impossible. Like a kid is asking if it's a mermaid is real or if it's superpower is real. So as much as possible, we should answer that question. You can do activities to practice their thinking about thinking. You can also ask your kid about a challenging situation para magamit ilang thinking about thinking. Example, a toddler is using a thinking about thinking. A toddler is playing a clay. She create a cave using a clay. So that kid imagining that there's a person inside the cave. So a kid is thinking and thinking. He or she is using thinking about thinking. Another one is a toddler is playing a toy. Barbie dolls. There's a dad, mom, children. So they're nag-eat nagkaon sila sa lamesa. That kid would imagine that they are talking while eating. So that is thinking about thinking. Let's move forward now to the last principle. The principle six context of learning. Learning is influenced by environmental factors, including culture, technology, and instructional practices. So, well, nowadays, the technology, dili na ka mabuhi kung wala technology. You will not learn with if no technology. So right now, especially during online class, if you don't have any stable internet, if you don't have any device to use during online class, then imong learning maapektuhan. While in other hands, I mean, while the other person, she or he has a laptop na siya good stable internet, maka-research dayon siya pag naay assignments or naay mga reports. So, dali ang iyang learning. Like for toddlers as well right now, compared before, walay technology before. Pero karon nga mga toddlers, they can watch YouTube at home to I mean to look for educational videos like Kokomalon, like Kids TV. So in these days, mas dali na makatuto ang kids because even if wala sila nag-study, even if na lang sila sa house, they can still learn by watching videos at home. So possibly, katok na mentions are the factors in learning. So culture, as it was emphasized that learning is influenced by culture. So culture is not about the ethnicity. I'm sorry. It's not about a tribe, ethnicity. Okay. The culture means, culture does not means only ethnicity or tribe. Culture here means that, example, as a kid, dagan sila mag-igsuon. Sa ilahang balay, walay proper place nga maka-study sila, walay study table, wala sila materials to use for studying, wala sila crayons, wala sila ball pens to practice their writing or practice their drawing skills. Or wala sila kwarta magpalit og merienda nga during sa pag-eskwela. So maapektuhan ang ilahang learning. While the other kids, sa ilahang balay na sila playing station, na sila stable to study, na sila complete materials, school supplies like crayons, ball pens. So meaning if that's the case, their learning will be effective. So that is the culture means. So anyway, as well, another example for culture, if a parents wala na kahuman sa pag-school, wala na ka-graduate, so of course, dili sila maka-guide og proper, di sila maka-support properly sa kid because wala sila kahuman nag-eskwela. So it will affect again to their learning because of the culture. So it was also mentioned the instructional practices. Learning will be influenced because of that instructional practices. So instructional practices, it depends on the teacher or parents on what are their strategies to teach the kid or the students. So if luya sila sa pag-study, if luya sila sa pag-discuss, lack of discussion, then mag-affect silang learning. There's also another situation for instructional practices. Like a kid, she or he is anad to study while listening to a music, anad siya to study while naka-off ang suga, anad siya, napoy other kids nga kaning tapulan mag-study. So that is the instructional practices can influence their learning. So how this principle apply for toddler? So as I mentioned in the book, make your home a classroom, like putting make your home a classroom. Since a toddler cannot go to school around 1 to 3 or 1 to 2 years old, so just put educational poster at home, like alphabet, like numbers, shape. So have him a complete supplies like crayons so that they can practice their writing skills and drawing skills. It was also mentioned in the book that make your home or classroom environment safe and nurturing. Let me just remember. And nurturing for a toddler or kid to learn by making sure that their safety while they climb, while they jump and explore. To take them as well, if take them to a field trip, going to a park, garden, museum. So it will help their learning. Give a toddler a learning or educational toys that is appropriate to their development stage. So that is the last principle of the cognitive and metacognitive factors. Now let's move forward to next factor, the motivational and affective factors. So this factor has three principles, which is the principle 7, 8, and 9. Before I'll discuss the principle, let's talk about the motivational and affective factors. So let's just make a short meaning of this. So as my understanding, motivation is the one who push who push us to do this, to make this, like that. Well, the emotion, this is how we felt. So it will this factor, the emotion also combined with motivation. Let's talk about the first principle, which is the principle 7, motivational and emotional influences on learning. What and how much is what and how much is learn is influenced by the learner's motivation. Motivation to learn in turns is influenced by the individual's emotions, state, belief, interests, and goals and habits of thinking. How influenced and motivated are you? So, teachers and parents should be a good role model for toddlers. Our emotion affect kids' learning. Like example, kung parents kinapakita niya sa iyahang toddlers nga negative siya, then a kid will be negative also. Because toddlers usually learn from what they see or what they observe. So if a parent is very negative during teaching during nag-teach sa kid, like your parents teaching the kid to read this alphabets, pero galuya ang parents nagatulo, walay gana, then there's no effective learning because of that. Or pangit imong pagtulo, dili siya nindot, so wala siya, dili effective ang learning ana. So I mean, it was mentioned it will influence. And what is the habit of the parents? The kid will also influence. So like for example, ikaw, I mean, a kids also usually maanad nga dili siya ganang study or negative iyang thinking mag-permit siya mag-remember nga lisod basahon. So ang parent pod okay ra pod siya paundangon niya og teach. So meaning gamay, I mean dili effective ang iyang learning. So a kid was influenced by his habit of thinking. A parent should avoid these practices, and always the parents and teacher should be a good role model for toddlers. So let's move forward to principle 8, intrinsic motivation to learn. The learner's creativity, higher order thinking, and natural curiosity all contribute to motivation to learn. Intrinsic motivation is stimulated by tasks of optimal novelty and difficulty relevant to personal interest and providing for personal choice and control. So, intrinsic meaning, gikan sa imuhang loob. Ginusto gyud nimo na. Like, I mean, sorry. Like right now, we are currently earning an education because this is what we want. This is our passion before. So we want to teach the student in the future. That is the reason why you are earning an education. Gusto gyud nimo sa imong sarili sa imong loob. You are motivated to study about education because this is our passion. Dili tungod kay nag-earn ka, tungod kay bored lang ka, tungod kay gisugo ka, tungod kay gastuhan ka, napugos lang ka. So if that's the case, while you are studying education, there's no motivation. There's no motivation. Dili gikan sa intrinsic, dili gikan sa imong sulod jud. Because napugos lang ka or pangpalipas oras lang nimo so no motivation, no learning nga ma-earn. How this affect to the toddlers when teaching? If a teacher has no motivation to teach his student or her student, if your topic or your lesson is dili gikan sa loob, walay halaman-laman, then walay learning ma-earn ang mga kids. Like before, during nag-teach ka sa kids, hate din mo ang kids, mubura kag pasensya. Ting ana magaling from the start pa lang, wala unta ka nag-teacher. Like for parents, nawad-an kag motivation kay dugay makatuon ang kid. Nawad-an kag pasensya, dugay maget sa kid. So mas mag-worse noon, mas dili maka-learn ang kid because you don't have any patience, you don't have any motivation, even you yourself. So if a teacher don't have an intrinsic motivation, then the kid as well also don't have any motivation to study. If you have intrinsic motivation as a teacher and parent, then a learning will be effective. In order the kid to learn effectively, the parents and teacher should have an intrinsic motivation. So that is the principle 8. Let's move forward to the last principle. Principle 9, effects of motivation on effort. Acquisition of complex knowledge and skills require extended learner effort, and guided practice. Without learner motivation to learn, then the willingness to exert this effort is unlikely without coercion. So, we the teacher and parents, if there's this is just the same, if you have a motivation, this is just the same principle 8. If you have a motivation or if you have a intrinsic motivation, then we are willing to exert effort. If we are motivated, we are willing to act. We are willing to do activities. Bisag ubot ang kids, bisag kiat ang mga kids, bisag daghang question ng kids, you are still doing effort. You're still doing effort to teach them. You're still doing activities because if you don't have any motivation, if dali na ka ma-down, then you are not willing to do effort. So, like for example, you're discussing a topic, igo lang nimo gibasa, wala nimo gi-explain to the kids, walay ka effort, walay ka gwapo-gwapo imong presentation, then a kid don't understand any of your topic, pati a teacher wala na understand yung topic, so wala mo kasabot pareho, especially the student nga imong gitudluan walay na earn nga learning. So if you are willing to exert effort, then there's an effective learning. So that is the last principle of the motivational effective factors. So the next factor will be discussed by the next reporter. So anyway, I hope you understand all my discussion for today. So I hope you will apply this principle for those who have kids, for those teachers or future teachers and parents. So thank you so much for watching my video, for understanding my discussion. Thank you for your time, and especially thank you as well to my teacher, Ma'am Kagimbal. Thank you so much, and bye bye for now. Have a great day.